Morning. Okay, ladies, put down the wine. It's time to pay attention to the meeting. Okay. Let's try it again. Morning. Under order.
Morning.
Wording. No, I'm looking at it. Yeah, okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, welcome to meeting number 315 of TMG Dayton, the MAC group. And we got a little note up there that we're being recorded by the host or a participant. So this is a hybrid meeting. We're on Zoom and we're also being videotaped, so it'll later be on YouTube. With that said, I'm going to dismiss that little message there, and we'll just talk about the agenda for a minute. So the first thing is the welcome. Mr. Leal, do we have any guests or visitors today?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to your knowledge. Okay. So we have no guests or visitors. We got any brand new members? Do we want to rattle their cage? No, I don't think so. I think we're good. Okay. So we'll consider the welcome is already done. Let's move on to news items. I know this will shock some of you, but I actually have printed news items in my hand. So the first one, and I feel bad about something, I was going to bring my iPod poster from 20 years ago, when they announced the first iPod. I was going to put, welcome to retirement. So the news item is Apple is retiring the very last model of the iPod. They're not going to make any more iPods. And the Apple online store is completely sold out of those iPods because there was a rush. My life partner being one of those who wanted to get her last.
Did she get one?
Yeah. She was going to put it off. She was going to put it off and do it when she got back from church, and I said, let's do it now.
Good call. Good call.
And so if you still want an iPod...
You could probably put that on eBay for 3 or 4 times what you paid for it.
I understand that, but I would not recommend people go to eBay. I would suggest they go to our local Target or Best Buy. The 2 local Best Buys still have some iPods left with the 810 chip and all sorts of other good. Second item is Apple reports their second quarter results, and revenue was up 9% to a new March quarter record. And of course, some of you may have heard there was a little bit of a kerfuffle on the stock market. So Apple has lost its place as the most valuable company on the planet. Instead, the most valuable company on the planet today, as we speak, is Saudi Arabia Aramco.
Oil company.
Because the book value includes
That's
all
your
the
gas
oil
prices
that's
right
still
there.
in the ground.
Oh.
Okay. So actually, Apple's about 20% below its high, 52-week high. So it's not a bad time to buy Apple if you want to buy Apple. Next one is a rumor, and that's Apple is testing iPhones that don't have lightning ports, the lightning cable, but instead use USB-C ports. And again, that's a rumor, and it's all due to the Eurozone wanting to decree that, all technology must have this or that. The last item that I have, I'm going to turn over to Rick Cartwright, and that is that Apple, Google, and Microsoft have committed to expand support for the FIDO standard, F-I-D-O, and I'll let Rick explain what that is.
All right, so we talked about passwords, and passwords are a real pain. They're not a lot of fun. You got to remember them and all this stuff. So the FIDO standard is a way to, I'm going to get into what the long-term goal is. I'm not going to talk about all the steps in between. But when this goes through, your phone, you know how you use Face ID or Touch ID on your phone to log in? In the future, when you go to a website, there'll be some communication that will allow you on your computer to log in and then authenticate using that identification method on your phone. So you would go over to the phone, do Face ID, and then you would log into the website. There's some handshaking that goes on, trading of credentials, blah, blah, blah. A lot of stuff that happens in the background. But the bottom line is you have security, very good security, as long as you have your phone, without having to have all those passwords. That's the future. And that's supposed to be in the next year that they're supposed to start, putting that out. Apple's doing it, Google, Microsoft, they're all doing it. The authentication methods will vary, who you're dealing with. But I'm really excited about this. This to me is going to be a great thing because passwords are such a problem. That's the short form version.
So now I'm going to stand up again. I noticed we had a guest walk in. So I'm up. Don't walk away on me, Marcus. Marcus, can I have your attention for just a minute?
Yeah.
The meetings always start with what we call the welcome, where we welcome any guests or visitors. So we're going to introduce Marcus Mullins, and you're going to tell them who you are, Marcus Mullins. Okay, I'm making it easy for you. What do you use a Mac for? And that's all sorts of good stuff. And what, if anything, you want to know how to use a Mac for that you don't already know?
Well, I basically work in information security and software engineering, and I have a MacBook Pro that I use for Docker programming, that kind of thing, software engineering, and also some penetration testing for being able to see how secure our network is, that sort of thing.
Okay. And is there anything you don't know how to do on a Mac that you'd like to learn to do?
Can't think of anything right at the moment.
Okay.
I've used Mac since '84.
Okay. How about media centers? Do you know about Cody and how to use Cody for a media center?
No, I don't.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, so with that said, so we did get a welcome today. All right, do we have any other news items from the audience?
Just one. There'll be massive updates on all the software on all the iOS, iPadOS, watchOS. Everything's going to get an update next week or so.
Say next week or within the 2 weeks?
Within 2, but I think next week. I would expect Monday or Tuesday, but I'm not positive. They don't tell you when.
Okay.
But I expect it'll be Tuesday.
Are you beta testing anything?
Right now, no, because I just got tired of messing with it.
Okay. I understand the feeling. So, this is what I refer to as applesauce, Apple system stuff. So that would be new updates for the watches, the iPads, the laptop, the MacBooks, the iMacs, the studios. What am I missing? I'm missing something. The HomePods, iPads.
HomePods, Apple TV.
Oh, and phones.
and
Phones.
Apple TV.
And phones. So they're not going to be the next generation of the operating system, but rather, the next updated fix, if you will. Okay? So just be aware that that's coming within the next 2 weeks.
Question.
Yes?
If you have an iPhone, how does it update? Is it doing it while you just have it,
Normally, iPhones will update automatically
Oh, I see. Yeah.
if they're plugged in overnight.
Okay.
They don't update unless they're plugged into a power source.
Yeah.
So you got to have it either on a, what's the mag?
MagSafe
Yeah, MagSafe,
charger.
where it does it magnetically, or an actual cable plugged into it.
And you have to have automatic updates turned on.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, anybody, let's see, any other news items? Going once, going twice. Okay, I'll add one other, and that is Spectrum has responded to the increased competition in local internet, and they have increased their speeds while retaining the same price structure. And I think it has to do with the, okay, I'm in a senior moment here. It's mobile.
I forget their name. Who said it? Somebody said-
Metronet.
Metronet.
Yeah, they're coming to pick one, and I've already signed up.
No, there was somebody else. They're primarily a cell phone company, but they're doing the mobile internet at a really...
That's
He's
another-
got it. What's their company?
I've got T-Mobile,
T-Mobile, thank you.
Home internet.
T-Mobile, yeah, they're the one
5G,
that's.
it's a 4G/5G.
So it's really competitive. Skylink, not so much, or Spacelink, not so much, because Elon Musk has sent a whole bunch of dishes to an Eastern European nation that I won't mention today, because we stay away from politics. Yes, Marcus?
For everybody who lives, if any of you live in eastern part of Greene County, that's like 68, Cincinnati Bell is, over the next 3 years, is going to be putting in fiber to the home to every house on that side of Greene County.
Wow,
About 9,200 homes.
that's cool.
It'll be up to 2 gigabits.
Is yours one of them?
But they're not Cincinnati Bell. They changed their name.
It's Alta Fiber now.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, they couldn't do Cincy Fiber? Anyway. All right, any other news items? Going once, going twice? Do we have anybody on our Zoom page that has a news item? Nope, we're good? Going once, going twice? We're good. Okay, so the next thing would be our HomeKit Minute, where we give you a glimpse of the world of IoT, Internet of Things. And Dan, if you would come over and take care of that, I'll step to the side. I'm going to watch how you switch it.
All right, so we have another first world issue that I'm trying to tackle here. And
I'm going to just make a hardware comment. He's using his iPhone connected through a dongle and an HDMI cable directly to the projector. Okay, so just, we've got some people that do interesting stuff.
so next month I'm going to a convention, not the Worldwide Developer Convention, but to an architect convention. And I was faced with having to take a whole stack of business cards with me and passing them out because vendors and stuff exhibit their wares, and of course they want your contact information. And not everybody has an iPhone, so I can't share them my contact. But well, okay, no face. There we go. So I picked up these NFC chips. Anybody familiar with NFC? Near field chip, near field communication chip. As you can see, it's paper thin. They're actually stickers in this case, and that they come back to a backing, and inside is a coil that allows you to write to it like a normal chip would. But in this case, it's write once, read many. And what I did was I went out and I saved my business contact information in my contacts list as a VCF or a virtual. This is going to, and then put that on iCloud. I put that VFC or VCF card information on iCloud, and I made it shareable in iCloud to anybody that has a link. And so in the file folder you say share, and it allows you to copy a URL address to it. And I got this application called NFC Tools. These chips, by the way, you can get anywhere from 10 to 200 for fair. This was 40 cents a piece. They're not expensive. So I got 10 of them I got 25 of them for $10.
Where did you get that?
Off Amazon. So these will work for HomeKit. These will work. Though you'll also see. I'll show you how you can actually save shortcuts in your HomeKit application to these chips. So you could put the sticker next to the door into your garage and have it open your garage door if it's so associated with the control. Anything you can control with HomeKit, you can put a shortcut onto these, and there's, you know, turn on a light just by tapping your phone, or instead of having to go through and open HomeKit and do all of those other things. But it, you know, it would be a dedicated switch basically. So anything you can control in HomeKit. In this case, I just wanted to have my business contact on it, so I made that VCF file. I put it on iCloud so it's shareable, and so what you do is you go into the app and you say write, and you say add a record, and here's all the different things that you could add to the chip. So you know, if you scroll all the way down, there's one at the very bottom. It says shortcut. So you could actually have a shortcut that's on your phone written to this NSC tag. And then, so you would select, in my case, I was adding a URL, and here's where you would paste, it's hard to see up there, but here's where you would paste that URL from your iCloud storage, and then it tells you basically, okay, I'm ready to write it, and just hold it near the chip, and it then writes that information, that link, onto the chip. So when you approach somebody that has an iPhone or even an Android phone, you just hold it up. So I get it work. Of course. Demo.
Demo, what do you call that?
I don't know whether it's not working because I'm sharing the phone, sharing the screen, but anyway, you would just hold up the phone like you would if you were doing a Apple Pay or any kind of transaction, and a little notification would pop up, and it would ask you whether you want to import that file. I mean, somebody else can try this.
Here, I'll try it. I got it.
Yeah.
There it is, right there on the screen.
So it's very convenient. They're not expensive, and just a neat way to control information or your devices. So, any questions?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah.
So you take a series of these, you put your shortcuts on them, you put them in your house in an appropriate place where you would activate that shortcut.
Right.
So like you've got one, let's say, next to your garage door, you take your phone, put it up, garage door opens.
Right.
You
And
put
you
your phone up, garage door
can
closes.
add a conditional statement to that, so that if the door is already open, it won't do anything. Or if it's, you know, if you just want to be able to close it, and it's already closed, it won't do anything. So there's a lot of programming that can be done with it, and that's all based into the shortcut programming. And then once you paste that shortcut into the chip, it all becomes.
So you're squinting out your front door, and you see that you've got the missionaries wanting to talk to you, and you take your phone and turn on the sprinkler system.
You could. If your sprinkler system is so programmed.
Okay.
I have one- I got
Or you
one
have-
up front of
or
my
you have
house.
a group of kids with their skateboards rolling up and down your front porch, and so you have something already programmed, so take your phone near the chip, boom, it starts playing classical music very loud in their area.
So anything that you could program into HomeKit, you could control with a NFC chip.
I have one on the front of my house, and I put the phone up to it, and it locks the door, it turns on the porch light. Then do it again, it turns off the door, locks the porch light. I mean, backwards from that, but yeah. I don't use it, but it does that, that's what I've got.
So,
Now, are they reprogrammable?
Not the
some-
one he's got, the one that.
Some are, some aren't. Depends on which ones you buy. And another caveat is that any phone older than version 7 probably won't read them. So
Okay.
if you have a newer phone, no problem. But I think they started the capability in the 7s.
Okay, so that's near field communications and HomeKit integration of it.
Yeah.
Dan, hold up the
Cool.
chip. We'll zoom in on
can they get that?
Okay.
There are some that are encased. This one's a sticker. In this case, probably not. But you also have problems if they're on metal objects. So,
Some of them.
yeah.
If you want to put it on metal, like I wanted mine on my mailbox, you got to buy a different one. That one wouldn't work on my mailbox. But if you get one that's meant to be mounted on metal, it'll work.
Yeah.
But you got to be careful when you buy them to get the right one.
There's some that have the protective front and back, but they're not stickers. So in this case, if I wanted to, I could embed this between two of my business cards and have a business card that people could simply tap and gather all the same information. So, but I'm just going to have this with me and say, hey, you want my information? Here, scan this.
Okay, good, thank you. Now we're moving on to the next item, which is freebies wanted and for sale. And I was taking a look at the freebie table, and I saw that there is a combination trackpad mouse up there, USB, and also a powered USB 3 hub up there. And I'm not sure who put them there.
They're from me.
Okay. And were they freebie items,
Yes.
or were they're freebie
They're
items?
freebie items.
Okay. So if
And they're listed on the
anybody's
webpage.
interested in them, say thank you, Dick. All right.
I have something to offer.
Oh, sure.
It's an iPhone 1. I mean, I've just moved up with the cases. If anybody wants them, free.
Too late.
Maybe it doesn't work now, but but if nobody wants it, I wonder if there is a site which wants free iPhones for people who don't have them.
Well, it's not so much that they do that, but I got to be careful that I don't do anything that's political. Okay. There is this thing that exists right now with certain types of minerals called supply issues.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Apple has committed to be a closed ecosystem for rare earths that are used in the production of iPhones. So if you wanted to help Apple, you could return that to get it recycled. They will actually take that thing apart, extract the minerals and the various things, and then reuse it to make new iPhones, iPads, and other stuff.
So you just take it to the Apple Store.
Take it to the Apple Store. If you can get a rebate because you're turning in an old device.
And that one's sold, it won't have any.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
they will
right.
recycle it.
They will
Okay,
recycle it.
okay.
Bill.
Okay, yes, Dan.
I've got a connection that he's a missionary in Nicaragua.
Uh-huh.
He's collecting used electronics
Okay.
to distribute to people in Nicaragua for use.
I
And
see.
if you're willing to give it away,
Yeah.
he can use it to give it to people in Nicaragua.
Okay, you'll just send me the address.
I can either take it, or if you're giving it away, I can take it with me and.
No.
Great,
Now,
thank you.
Dan, raise your hand.
you cleaned it?
If he's still got his date on it, you're
Yeah.
gonna,
Yeah, it'll get wiped.
okay.
It's not.
All right, anybody else have any items? Anybody looking for any items? If you need a printer cable, let me know. I've got a large box of printer cable, USB printer cables. In fact, if you need a cable, any kind of cable, let me know. I've got lots of cables. And I got read the Riot Act by my daughter. She says, Dad, do you remember when we used to be able to roller skate in the basement because there was nothing down there? She says, when you die and I go into that basement, I want to be able to roller skate. And so if you've got anything you need to take care of it now. Okay, so I'm going to say we're done with freebies and wanted. And we're going to move on to the dreaded help desk. Anybody having any issues they want to discuss? Going once, going twice? Okay, we'll go to the back of the room first.
I just had a question, basically.
Sure.
I have upgraded my computer to the latest version. Will VirtualBox work on that along with an older version of the Mac OS that happens to be Intel based.
Okay, you want to run the older version of Mac inside a virtual machine, inside VirtualBox.
Yeah, inside
Yes.
VirtualBox that's on
You
Windows.
can do that. You can do that. The legalities are you're only supposed to do it if it's a server based, so technically only the Snow Leopard server. But practical application, if you're doing it for a specific good reason, not commercial, yeah, Apple wouldn't have a problem with it.
I ended up buying a very old Mac just to run a particular software that I've been using since 2000 or
Yeah.
so.
Referencing to being able to roller skate, I don't have that option anymore. I've been told I'm not allowed to bring in any more old Macs. There's a certain number, it's like the SALT treaty, I can't exceed. So things have to come in and then they have to go out. My workaround for that is if I want to run, let's say, Apple II, software that was good for an Apple II Platinum, okay, I do it in a virtual engine, okay, that's running on a Mac running, what came after Big Sur, Monterey? Monterey? Yeah, Monterey, it's running Monterey. Same thing if I want to, for some reason, be using AppleWorks, which has an Intel and a PowerPC version, I run that inside a virtual machine, an emulator called Sheep Shaver, and you're familiar with that.
Yeah, I'm using that along with this other one I was thinking.
Right, so following my path, which is always dangerous, we know that, I'll lead you right off the cliff. What I've done is for those legacy applications that don't work beyond Yosemite or El Capitan, I have a virtual machine set up with El Capitan. Okay? Okay. Remember, follow me. I'm going to go off the edge of the cliff. Okay, anybody else? We'll go to Ray Ratchford. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning. A while back, I was trying to sell a brother's printer, a laser printer, and decided that it was still too nice to sell off because the reason was because I got my wife a new M1 computer, and they don't have the drivers to make that printer work.
Yeah.
But I'm using an Intel MacBook Pro, and no problem there. But you're talking about something that I'm kind of gray on.
Yeah.
But do you think there's some way that I could make the M1 silicon computer work?
Yeah. Okay, so what you would
Right.
do is, now, okay, I do not have any of the Apple Silicon notebooks, desktops, iMacs. I haven't gotten my hands on one yet. Okay, so I don't know if this would work on the Apple Silicon machines. But it would seem to me that you could run VirtualBox on that machine. And within that, run an operating system where the drivers still work for that printer. And what you would do is you would have the file where the virtual machine can get to it. You can share folders between a virtual machine and the actual computer. And you would print from the virtual machine. Okay, but that seems like a lot of hoops to go through to be able to print from that newer Mac. But you can do it. You're the one who has to decide, is this too much of time and effort?
I have a friend that lives not too far from here that might be able to help me.
Okay. Okay. All right, do we have anybody else? Yes, yes, ma'am.
Not really a technical question. I'm trying to get all the people on the raffle list, and I'm sorry, but I don't know who iPad 2 is.
Oh,
Zoom.
We don't know either.
You mean on the
What
Zoom?
name is?
Yes.
Rick, could you,
We've asked. We haven't found out who it is. Try to send them a message.
I tried.
She
Okay.
did.
we don't know?
We've asked, but we've not got no response.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
So, my response is they're not on the list then.
No.
Okay.
Where do I get the raffle ticket here?
No, we're gonna do it all, we got a whole new method.
Okay.
You're already, do you have oh, you're on the list. We got a different way of doing it.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
got it.
anybody else for help desk?
Somebody online.
Okay, what do we got online?
Yeah, go ahead.
Has anybody had problems or know any problems with the new iPhone SE? Because mine went off during the night with an alarm and I had it shut down. And my sister's had problems with hers too.
I haven't heard anything.
No?
No, there's no systemic problems that have been announced with any of the iPhones at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Hey Kathy, you still on?
Yes,
Have you pulled the trigger on that new laptop yet?
I'm going to next month.
Okay. Okay if I call you later on this weekend before I head out on my trip? And we'll,
Sure.
I want to make sure that I gave you good current advice. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, take care.
Okay, anybody else? Help desk. Going once, going twice. I heard a ding.
Anybody else on Zoom?
No, I think we're good. Okay, so the next step would be to move on to the raffle.
All right. Anybody here ever get a text message that's spam?
I've got one.
Yeah. How about an email spam?
Oh, I've got one of those.
How about a phone call to spam? Hey, we've all get them. They come all the time. I am so tired of them. It frustrates me greatly. So I thought that what would be a fun thing to do today would be to talk a little bit about it and some of the tools that are available. I'm not going to solve all the problems here today, but I'm going to try to give you some things to think about. A few tools that you can actually use, things that I use to help with some of them, and we'll go as far as we can and introduce some ideas and see where that takes us. So I'm going to try to stand up while I do some of this just because I've been sitting all day and I'm tired of sitting. So here's what I want to propose we do. We're going to start with just a few simple tips, some things you can do, apps for all these different things, tools, links to resources that you may want to take a look at. But a couple of things you need to know. Number one, I'm one person and I can only tell you what I have used. And to know that, you need to know that I primarily use all my Apple devices. You know what I have. I have an iPhone, an iPad, and a Mac. And they're all on the latest operating system. So I'm going to take it from that perspective. The latest operating system on all those things. And your mileage may vary. YMMV, that stands for your mileage may vary. So your results may be a little different than mine. I'm not telling you that I'm going to solve all your problems. But these are just a few ideas and tips and things that I do. I've used it on my phone, on my devices, and on Teresa's, as well as on one of my sons. So I've had some tests on this using different things, and they've always worked. So maybe that says something. Maybe I've done something right. We're going to start with the phone. A few years ago, it wasn't that long ago, when somebody talked about getting messages you didn't want. Usually it was some kind of voice call. Usually it was during political season. You get all these calls that you didn't want to get. But that's changed. Anymore, it's all fair game. They send you messages. I get messages all times of the day and night that are just spam. So we'll try to talk about those. So the first thing I want to talk about, and some of this didn't line up because it's a different version of Keynote. When you get your presentation package, it'll all be perfectly lined up. But the first thing I want to mention is there are call blocking apps available that you can go to the App Store and you can download. I have not used any of the paid apps, but I know that they're out there. This is something you can look at. I would be sure before I used any of them that you read the reviews, talk to somebody that's used the particular app you're interested in, But if you search, there's a lot of call blocking apps on the App Store. And it's something you may want to take a look at. So I just mentioned that in passing, that that's a good place to start. The Do Not Call registry. Does anybody register on the Do Not Call registry? Yeah, excellent. It's not perfect. It doesn't eliminate all calls. I think it helps, but I don't think it's perfect. So it's a good idea. I put a link to where you go to register that, so you can click on that link when you get the packet, and it will allow you to register if you want to register just on the Do Not Call list. But I think it's a good thing to do. The other thing is, if you're getting robocalls, and you're getting these calls, and they're coming through even though you're on the list, you can report them. So that link right here, donotcall.gov, if you go there, you can report calls you're getting. So when you get a call, get the number, write down the information, what time it came in, all that stuff, and you can actually report those calls. And I think that's a good thing to do. I think that does result in action if you got the time to report it. So it's worth doing, it's worth taking a look at, and it helps. Now, there are some built-in tools that I do use a lot that I really believe have helped me to cut back on phone spam. And I'm just going to call it phone spam. The first one is, there's a setting in your iPhone, in the latest versions of iOS, called Silence Unknown Callers. This is a great tool. I use this, and I'm sure it makes some people upset, because when you turn this feature on, and it tells you how to do it here, you turn this feature on, if somebody calls your phone and they're not in your contact list, guess what happens to that call? It goes straight to voicemail. And they never leave a message when it's spam. So you don't fill up your voicemail because they're just upset that they got routed to your voicemail. You'll get a little screen that pops up at the top of your screen, just like this right here. It says, silence call. And you say, hallelujah. Because you didn't take that phone call. So that's a wonderful thing. And it works every time. Now, there's a couple things, and I'll get to your question in a minute. There's a couple things you got to know about this feature. Number one, if somebody tries to call you that's not in your address book, they're going to go to voicemail. So if you're expecting a call, I was expecting a call from Apple support one day, and I came to time, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm sitting there on my phone waiting for this phone call. All of a sudden I see this silence phone call. Well, guess what? I had the feature turned on. It silenced the call, but it's because they weren't in my address book. So if you know that a call is coming that you expect and you have this feature turned on, you may want to turn the feature on for a few minutes so you can get the call. This can have its ups and downs. I was expecting a phone call at 6 o'clock yesterday. I don't remember the exact time. I knew that they weren't in my contact list. I didn't know what number they were going to call me from. So I went in and turned off silence phone call so I would get their call. 2 minutes later, I got a political call. So, you know, it's got its pluses and minuses. But this feature really, really works. And it is worth it. I love this feature. Now, there are some things you can do in addition to this. When you see a number that you don't want to get that call anymore, you can actually block that call, and I'll show you in another slide here how to block a call. But if you've got the number and they try to call you and it shows up as a missed call, you can click information and you can go down the bottom of the screen and click block this call, and you can block any future call that comes from that number. But there's an option to consider. Great tool, it's free, it doesn't cost you a penny, and it works really, really well. With just some little side notes there, you have to be aware of what it may do to your phone if you're getting calls. If I still worked, I make it sound like I don't do anything, but if I still had a full-time job, this would be a lot harder to turn on because I got calls from people all over the world all the time that I didn't know who they were. So, you know, if you're in a situation where you're going to get a lot of those calls, you have to think about that. But you could always turn this feature on outside of working hours or something if you wanted to, or other things. You know, maybe you can still take advantage of this feature. But I love this feature. I think it's a great tool, and I highly encourage you to take a look at it. To block a number, you can block a call. You pick up the spammer's message, like here's one from a Progressive call. I know Progressive is insurance, but I didn't want this. I did not want to get this. I wanted to block this caller. So you go in, you tap on the message, you click the little I button up at the top. That's the info tab. And then right at the bottom it says block this number. And it blocks it. And once it's blocked, that call, that phone number can never get through again. Now, not all spammers use the same number all the time. Some of these people are really sly. And they rotate through numbers. Some of them look like numbers that are down the street. They really are good about this. But it'll still work if you know the number is going to be the same. Okay, question, Ray.
Well, I had a situation, actually, this just started yesterday. I talked to a man that did a little electrical work at my house. We're standing in a different location, and I said, well, give me your number, and he gave me the number. No, we were working the thing out. He was sending the number to my phone,
My text?
and I couldn't get it. Because although he had a very legitimate phone number, it looked bad. Because the beginning, you had the Cincinnati area code, but then you had one number and 2 zeros for the 3 zeros and one number for the last one. And it just thought, well, this is nonsense.
That's interesting.
So,
Do you have this feature turned on? Silence? Do you have the silence and no callers turned on?
no.
Okay. I don't know what was happening there. It's just interesting. Now, that may be the next slide that they've done that. So that's interesting. I don't know what was happening there exactly, but that's fascinating. So block unknown callers. It's right here at the bottom of the screen. You can't see it on the colors here because of the colors. It says block this caller. And you just click that, boom, it blocks them. So it's there. You'll be able to see that in the handout better than you can see it on the screen. Okay, here's an example of a third-party app that I do use. This is one provided by AT&T. Verizon has something like this. T-Mobile has something like this. And it's in the App Store. And they call theirs AT&T Call Protect. And it tries to identify calls that are fraud versus calls that are just spam versus calls that are unwanted. And you got blocked calls, flagged calls, and all calls. And it records all the calls that are coming in on your phone and tries to put them in buckets. And it tries to help block spam calls. I think it's really good at identifying spam. I'm not sure it's really good at blocking spam. But it helps to identify. So I use the silence unknown callers as my primary vehicle. And I use this to help identify calls in case it's somebody I really want to talk to. And it seems to help a little bit there. I haven't tried Verizon's tool. I haven't tried T-Mobile's tool, but I'm sure they're there. I know Verizon is. And then there's a million other providers. So you can look up and see what your provider has. I would encourage you to do that. They may have something great. Now this one has this is interesting. If I want to give them $3.99 a month, they make this even better. So I don't know. I haven't talked to them. I'm not about to give them $4 a month because I just don't see that it's going to be that more value for me to pay them. But, if you're having a lot of problems with spam, it might be worth $4 just to test it for a month and see how it works. I don't know. But that's the one that AT&T provides, and it seems to do a little bit. I'm just not sure how much. I'm still testing it. I've been testing it for a while, and I can't say much more about it. All right, that's it for phone calls and phone spam. Any other questions or comments on phone calls or phone spam anybody wants to talk about before we move on? Kathy?
I've got Spectrum.
My son has Spectrum too, so.
Okay. They've got on this no-mo robo
Yeah.
calls and stuff like that. Now, when it first started, it would ring once and then shut off. Well, now it's ringing once, twice, sometimes 3 times. So I don't know if there's something's been changed or what.
That's
but
weird.
still, it stops it.
Yeah, I've heard of that one before. I've never tested it, but I hear it works. But I didn't know about this 1 ring, 2 ring, 3 ring thing. I don't know. You might call and talk to them about it. There may be some setting somewhere that can help you with
It
that.
could be, yeah.
But I've heard it works good for getting robocalls. Robocalls are a real problem. And there's a lot of work being done. I know there's been proposed legislation. Nobody wants to seem to want to do anything. We won't get into politics of that. All right. Let's talk about messages. This one drives me crazy. This is the one that to me is the most offensive to me. I mean, I get these text messages. They're always addressed to 20 people. They're always addressed to 20 people. They always come from an email address versus a phone number. And they're always just obnoxious links. And I want to make a couple comments on these. And a few things that you just need to know, and then I'll show you a couple tools here too that I use. First thing is, text texting back and saying stop does not work. People do this all the time. I get it. But I'm telling you right now, don't do it. Because once they identify you as having an active number, they know they didn't send it to a bad number. You're better off just not doing anything.
Yes.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, George, mute your,
Mute, George. So, what I'm telling you is don't reply at all, but don't reply stop because it doesn't solve the problem. I see this all the time because I'll get, the ones I get with 20 people, 19 other people, well 18 other people plus the person that sent it. They're typing stop, doesn't mean, it didn't do anything. It just, if some of them actually put more stop, they say a few choice things, but stop doesn't solve the problem. Responding doesn't solve the problem. Clicking the links is the last thing you want to do. So you don't click the links, don't open the attachments, don't reply. That is the things you do not want to do with these kinds of messages. It will not help, it will not solve the problem. Okay, next thing that I do that I find seems to help a lot is I block that number or that email. I just click it, click the information button, and click block. And so it builds up a big list. I've got a list of block the caller or block the text message sender. And that seems to help. So if it's 20 people, you have to know who sent it to you, which ID is the person that sent it to you. Scroll down till you find that person, click on the information button, and block it. And I do that, and that really seems to cut back a lot because the same people are doing it over and over again. And I don't know if it's why it seems to work, but it seems to help. I block them all the time. Maybe because it makes me mad. I just feel like it relieves some of my anger. So I block them, and this tells you how to do it. You'll have this in your messages. You can just do it. The other thing I do is this thing right here. I send that, send a text message to 7726, which is spam. If you look it up, you know how you can identify letters with numbers. That's spam. This works for AT&T, it works for Verizon, it works for T-Mobile, I know for sure. I think it works for Spectrum. But try it. Go in, you text them that. First thing you do is text them the message itself. So if I got a message with a link, whatever's in the link, whatever's in the thing that I received, I copy it, and then I paste it in a new message and send it to 7726. Then I get a message back that says, well, thank you for sharing this with us. We want to help solve your problem. Who sent it to you? And then I send them the link where it came from. So I send them 2 text messages in sequence. They'll tell you what they want. First message I send them is just, what did I receive? Second message is, who sent it to me? And I'll show you an example of that right here. Here's the example. You would see this. I sent them first, said, hi, it's AT&T. Thanks for reporting this message. Please reply with the sender's phone number or email. It helps us to stop them from sending out more spam. Then I sent that person's link, which was an email address. Got it. With your help, we can block more unwanted messages. Check. Here's a link for more information on how to help us. Blah, blah. That works. And I use it religiously. And usually if I report somebody once, I never get another one. Sometimes if I don't report it right away, I'll get another one from them a half hour later. But once I report them through this system, it seems to really, really help. So I would encourage you to try it and use it. Try it with other suppliers, other cell phone providers. Let me know what happens. I'm interested in hearing how it works with other people. Like my experience is AT&T. I haven't tried it on anybody else, but I have read that this number works across the board. Almost everybody responds to this. All the cell phone providers. That makes sense? Everybody understand it? It's really not hard. And it's easy to remember because it's spam. So just send the message, the contents of the message first to spam, 7726, and then it'll ask you to do the next step. If you don't get anything back, then maybe they don't support it. Then you just have to go to your provider's website and see what tool they have. Maybe they have a different number or something like that. So this one I use a lot, and I really like it. Okay. Now this one doesn't solve the problem that well, but I find it helps me to manage and control unwanted messages a little bit, text messages. So you can turn on this feature in the iPhone where you can tell it, sort incoming messages by known senders and unknown senders. So if I get a text message from somebody that doesn't recognize that I'm not had text messages with before, I don't have them in my contact list, it puts their text messages in unknown senders. If I get a text message from Bill, if he sends me a text message, it goes in known senders. So I can look at all my messages from known senders, and I only see the people that I really want to talk to. If I look at unknown senders, I can see everybody else. And the third category is just all messages. If I just want to see everything, known and unknown, that's all messages. But I find this tool helps me a little bit just to kind of sort my incoming text messages. I get a lot of text messages, and some of them are ads that I do want. They're advertisements from somebody that's selling something. I'll go look at those every so often by checking my messages from unknown to make sure I'm not missing something important. And there's usually something in there I do want to see. I can add them to the known centers by adding them to my address book. But this tool just helps you manage that flow of messages. It doesn't eliminate anything. It doesn't delete anything. It just puts it in a separate box so that you can kind of manage it. Does that make sense? Okay. I like this tool. I like it a lot. Here it shows you. This is all my unknown messages. And look at them. They're almost all phone numbers. So these are just people that I get a message from that I didn't put them in my address book. And a couple of them are actually some that I really want to see. So that's how it works. Again, it doesn't block spam. It just kind of separates spam. It's kind of like taking a can of spam and moving it. All right. Other things I just mentioned here is, if you don't see something here that solves your problem, don't hesitate to contact your carrier, call up call up Verizon or call up whoever, Spectrum or whatever, and say, hey, what tools do you have to help with spam? They probably have something they'd like to sell you, but they should have something in the free category too. So don't hesitate to call them. And then again, don't hesitate to report unwanted messages. Here's a link to a website, and I have not done this, where you can report messages, and especially if you've lost money because they've conned it. And we're going to talk about con jobs and hacks and stuff in a minute, but you can report fraud to FTC, to Federal Trade Communications, with that link at the bottom of the page. All right? Now we're going to talk about email spam, but particularly I want to talk about hoaxes. This is a major problem. It wasn't that long ago, my father, well before he passed away, he calls me up one day, and he says, man, I've had this real problem. I couldn't get something done. I don't remember what it was. It was on his computer. So he ended up calling somebody to ask some questions. Next thing you know, they charged him $300 to solve all the problems on his computer. They hacked their way in. They messed with his system. It was a disaster. And this kind of thing is real. You can be a victim really easy, and it sounds so real. So you have to be extremely careful. I'm going to show you a couple examples, but I can't show you all the things I've heard. There are so many times when so many emails and phone calls, but this primarily email we're talking about here, look very real. They look official. I mean, I've received stuff that said it was from Apple, that at first glance, it looked like it was from Apple. But when you start really looking into it, you can identify it's not from Apple. We're going to talk about that kind of stuff a little bit. And here's a real popular one right now. I don't know why this one's so popular. I think, Kathy, you received this one, right?
Yeah.
I've received this one myself. I think I get this once a week. They tell me that they shipped out my new version of Norton, and here's the invoice, about $300 and some, and here's where you click to pay the invoice, and you'll have it within a week because we've already shipped it. I get this thing all the time. And I don't get it just from Norton. I get it from 2 or 3 other, they're not really from Norton, but they look so real. And they even have a due date. This is due on the 6th of May, and it was already the 6th, I think, when you got this. But the thing is, they look official. And if you didn't do anything especially, you want to be careful. But you don't want to reply again. You don't want to send messages back. You don't want to let them know that you're there, that you're a real person, because then it gets really messy. Your best bet is to simply delete it and let it go. Now, if you're not sure if it's real, then talk to somebody. You can call me anytime, but talk to somebody and have a discussion to try to figure out if it's real without going to them, to ask them if they're real. You really want to be careful. Talk to a family member, talk to somebody that you trust, and actually work from. If you look at the reply to information, you notice you'll find things real quick that, and here's a look at that address. You start looking at the who it's from, click on their email address at the top, and then you look to see who it is. And you'll often be able to pick up right away. It's not really from Norton. It's from some funky address that we can.
Well, this one in particular, it said it was from Intuit, which I have QuickBooks
Yeah.
for Intuit. And the thing is that I looked on the Intuit site, and it said that they only use Intuit.com. And if you flip it back,
Oh, yeah.
slide, you'll notice that the from
Right here.
is not, it has the Intuit.com, but the reply to
Notifications
does
dot
not.
into. Yeah.
The reply to is softwareservices.com.
Yeah.
So it's not, it doesn't have anything to do with Intuit.
So you just have to be careful with this stuff. And but again, this is an offer. If you ever get something you're really confused about, email or call me. I mean, I'm sure anybody else here would feel the same way. You don't have to fall for this stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick,
Yes.
Bill Howe. I get PayPal spam emails,
Yeah.
and in talking with them, if you do get a spam from somebody says that your PayPal, you can forward that to spoof@paypal.com, and they'll investigate that.
Yeah, I didn't put this in the presentation, but even Apple has a spoof email address.
Yeah, they do.
You can go to their webpage and search, go to their page, and they'll tell you that you can find it. But a lot of these bigger companies have a spoof email address where you can forward messages so they can do that. And all I would suggest is you go to PayPal, go to Apple, go to Microsoft, whoever it is, and search in there for reporting spam to whatever company, and you can find it. You can Google that alone and find it. So that's a good thing to do. This one was from Apple, supposedly. They said there was a problem with the account had been suspended, and that the account had been suspended, and you needed to contact them right away, and within 24 hours, on and on and on and on. And clearly, when you dig into this thing, you find out the from address. You can't see it there, but when you unhighlight that, it was something funny. And so just be sure you do your homework. Check messages like this real carefully. If you've been using your Apple ID and you're logging in and you're doing things, it's got to be a spoof. Apple would not contact you this way. This is not the way Apple would work. So that's just important to know. And all the big companies know it. This is a hoax email. This one really cracked me up because I have seen this one too. This was an email supposedly from the Red Cross, wanting money for helping with a natural disaster. And there's been several of these cases where it's something that really happened, and you know about it from the news. This was in the Philippines, or this was the COVID one. I had another one that was from the Philippines. But they're related to things that are really going on. This one was related to COVID. And they sound like it's really an opportunity to donate and help somebody. And they just want to prey on you. They want to take your money. And so, when you get emails like this, these are ones you can also just hit delete. If you want to give to the Red Cross, you should log into the Red Cross website. Make sure you're logged into the Red Cross website. Look at the top. You should see a little lock up there by their name. Go into the Red Cross website and donate. Or donate through Apple. Apple takes donations from the Red Cross all the time. But don't do it by responding to an email like this. This will be a hoax, and they will take your money as much as they can. They may drain your bank account before it's all over. So dangerous account, dangerous stuff, and you got to be really careful. Okay, tips for recognizing email scams and protecting yourself. There's 2 slides here with tips. One of them came while I was preparing this presentation. It cracked me up because I was sitting there working on this slide, and then I got this email telling me how to do the very thing I was trying to tell you how to do. I'll show you that one in a minute. But this is the one I put together. Scammers, they want to pretend to be some organization that you trust. Because the way they make it work is to get you to believe that you can trust them. There's some organization that you already are confident about, you already trust, like Apple or PayPal, whatever organization it is. They win by convincing you that you can trust them and that this email is trustworthy. So that's the first thing they do. They want to make you feel like you can trust them. It could be the IRS. I received a phone call one day from the IRS, told me that I was in trouble, and they were sending people out to arrest me right away, and all kinds of stuff. And at first I was a little bit freaked out. I'm like, what are they talking about? What did I do? But this doesn't work that way, and they're not going to do it this way. But they'll use people that you already are familiar with. It's not like they're going to come in some wild unknown. They're going to come in with something that you trust. Medicare, the government, the IRS, Microsoft, Apple, PayPal. These are people and businesses that you have a relationship with. You should trust that they're sending you good email. That's when you got to be careful. Your spider senses should go up immediately, and you should say, there's something sounds fishy about this. That's your first indication. Second is, if they do get a hold of you and they talk to you or they're emailing you, they're gonna promise solutions to solve some kind of big problem with a big payoff. They're gonna make this sound really juicy and really good, because by making it sound good, their odds increase of you saying, that makes a lot of sense. I should do this. And like the Norton thing, you've already ordered it. You're gonna get all this protection for your computer, and you're only gonna pay me $369. So when you start hearing those kind of promises for big deliveries, that means there's something probably wrong. This is the one that got my dad, I think. You have a computer virus, your credit card has been hacked. You owe the IRS money, whatever it is. They're going to use something like that. And that's their tool of like, hey, if you got a big problem, we can solve your problem, and we do it for really low cost. The other thing you hear a lot, we need to verify your account. Give us your login information. That's when you know there's a problem. That one you should immediately walk away from. They will often request you to pay over the phone or by email, and it's very common for them to get pushy. You would think that they wouldn't be pushy, and then that's why they shouldn't be pushy, but they're being pushy because they want to get your money, because they know the longer it takes to get it, the more likely you're going to hang up on delete the emails or whatever. So look for those kind of things, because those are all signs that something's wrong. Other things you can do is block unwanted calls and text messages. We've already talked about that. Block email spams. You can block email spams. Now, I did not in this presentation get into spam tools for eliminating email spam. There are lots of tools to do this. It's bigger than I can cover today. But there are tools out there for blocking email spam as well. And you may already have something. I don't know if you've ever looked in the junk email folder in your email client, but you may already be blocking some spam. But there are tools that do this really well. I use a couple different tools to block spam. But you could look at that if you're having a problem with email spam. Don't share personal financial information that you don't anticipate you should be sharing. If you get a call with somebody wanting to know about your bank, no matter what it is they're talking to you about, you should probably stop and take a break for a few minutes and let that sink in before you give them that information. Because something's probably amiss. And when they start insisting, just don't. That's when what was the gift card? There was a gift card not that long ago where somebody, I know what it was. I had somebody call me up, and they said they were something. They didn't call me, they texted me. They acted like they were a friend of mine and said that they had to use somebody else's computer because they were somewhere in a foreign country, and they needed immediate cash. And the way they could do this was with some gift cards. Wanted me to go to the store and pick up the gift cards and then mail them to me. And really got pushy. I mean, really got pushy. I was enjoying this. I was having a good time with it because I knew it was going to happen, and I knew what they were up to. So I was just playing along with them, and the longer I played, the more angry they got. So you just have to recognize when something sounds wrong, that probably is. Just even if they say they are your best friend, check it out. This happens all the time on Facebook. This kind of stuff happens on Facebook a lot. So messages on Facebook is notorious for this kind of a thing, where they want gift cards, credit card, all kinds of stuff. Just say no. And again, like I said earlier, talk to somebody you trust. If you trust me, you can call me. If you trust Bill, call Bill. Call somebody you trust, a family member, if you really want to double check yourself. It doesn't hurt to stop and double check yourself.
We
That
have
is
to
a
be
valid-
sure you're really you, though.
Yeah, I'll have to send you, I'll send you my encryption, my 32-digit encryption. Yes.
I thought I'd been doing pretty good, but I really, it happened just yesterday.
Yeah.
And the text message, well, email message was, you know, I'm really sorry to bother you, Lenore, but I got a problem. Can I give you a call? And it was a trusted family member.
Yeah.
You know, not immediate, but it was someone. And so I sent back and I went, Jan, you know, anytime, call me anytime, I'm free, whatever you need. And then the second one comes by, well, I need a gift certificate and I can't. And I went,
This is
oh,
the
and I felt like I've been, you know, I was had, and
Yeah.
I was
And
disappointed.
the crazy thing is, you know, they prey on your weakest moments.
Yeah.
You know, it's a family member, it's a whatever. These people are not. They're
But
just,
the Norton is the first thing, and you know it right away.
yeah, those
this
are
was
harder
the
because
second
that's why I say they find some relationship that already exists.
Yeah.
Because those are the easiest ones to tug at the heartstrings and get. I had a friend I got one from a friend that was supposedly, and I knew he had been traveling, and the message said he was stuck. He'd had a major health problem in Iran or somewhere. I don't remember where he was, but it was somewhere overseas. I knew he was in China, but it wasn't where he was. So I kind of wondered what the deal was, but they knew he was out of town.
Yeah.
And they put all these pieces together and made up a really good story. So I didn't do anything, but it's just the way they prey on you. And that's why, you know, I have sometimes to talk to somebody else and say, hey, does this sound right? And there's nothing bad about double checking yourself, Kathy.
Well, I get quite a few because of the treasure of TMG.
Yeah.
I even got one excluded one from Bill Herrick. And he was asking me to
I
show you
remember
the bank
this.
and pay this bill.
I got that one.
Oh,
I got that one too. Somebody
I
just
got it.
fake it to be Bill.
Well, we don't do that. That's not our policy and stuff. And so I said, I emailed him back, what do you need it for? That's not me, that's not me.
Yeah.
I know.
I remember that one because I got the same one at the same time.
Yeah.
And they wanted a gift certificate. They wanted me to pick up some gift certificates for
This,
that.
they want to know if I had time to go to the bank to pay off the bill.
Oh,
And I said, I don't have time today.
Yeah.
Next week, another Friday, do you have time to go today?
oh.
I thought,
That's funny. You can report fraud here. There's a link at the bottom of the page here, another place to report the fraud. I'm not sure how much good that does. The big thing is to protect yourself. That's the number one thing, is to protect yourself, protect your assets, and don't be fooled. Yes?
Yeah, kind of related to this, and it's a kind of a safety net in case you do actually fall for any of these sorts of scams. And that is if you have any bank account or 401k or IRA kind of investment account or anything that does not already have multi-factor authentication.
Very good point.
Really should get it set up,
Yeah.
work with your institution that has it. So that way, if you did fall for something, just because they had your login credentials, they still couldn't get in.
Yeah, I use sometimes it's called two-factor or whatever they want to call it. I use it on every account. And sometimes it's a little bit of pain. I was mad at my bank last week. They instituted a new policy where they were checking my IP address to make sure it was really me. Well, I was logging in with a VPN from the middle of who knows where, and so I got blocked out of my account. Now, I know that they were doing a good thing, but boy, was I furious. Because I couldn't log into my bank account all of a sudden because I got locked out and it was me. So, you know, they're all trying to solve this problem. Banks are really trying to solve this problem. But two-factor is a big tool. And I told them that. I called and said, you know, if you just turn on two-factor and use that, you wouldn't have to lock me out just because I'm on a different IP address. I said, what happens when I'm down? I got locked out at my son's house. I was at my son's house. I didn't use the VPN. I was on his IP, and they locked me out. So I've been locked out three times. This is the email I received while I was making this presentation. It came from Amazon. And they give a lot of the same tips. And, you know, they're talking about trust Amazon owned channel, be wary of false urgency. They mentioned, they said it far better than I said it, but I liked what they put together. So you'll have a copy of that in the handout too. And it's just, I thought I'd put it in just because it's good to get another set of words and from somebody big and it has a vested interest in helping protect their customers, which is good. All right, I'm going to play this video. I don't know if this is going to work or not. If it doesn't work, we'll stop it, and you can watch it when you get home. But I think this is really fun. Have you seen it?
It's hilarious.
This is really hilarious. I hope this works. If it doesn't, then watch it when you get home sometime when you're bored. I tell people all the time, do not reply to spam. But sometimes it's just fun. And I have done this where I reply to spam just because it is so fun. But let's see what happens here. It may not work. Let's try to load it up. Here we go. I don't know if people at home are going to hear this or not.
A few years ago, I got one of those spam emails, and it managed to get to my spam filter. I'm not quite sure how, but it's totally my inbox.
Is it coming over the speaker?
No.
All right, this is not going to work because nobody's going to be able to hear it. But go home, and when you get a chance, just watch this video, and it's just really funny. I'll stop in a minute. So it's the story of this guy. He goes on this funny thing where he responds to some spammer, and I laughed so hard I was bawling my eyeballs out. I just tore me up. So watch that video. The link's down there at the bottom. If you can't get it by the link, you can search for it, and just search for James Birch. And wherever it is. Thanks, Bill. All right.
I worked in a boiler room in high school. Oh, excuse me. Boiler room is not a place where you have the furnaces and such. It's a large area, lots of tables. Everybody's got a phone, and they're making the spam calls. This is back in the days before stuff was automated.
That's good. So questions. I'm going to take any questions. We're done a few minutes early, so we got some time for some questions. And then we'll go yes.
Well, this isn't, you mentioned the word junk, and I've always wondered on emails, if I put something in junk email, whether it does anything or not, how long do I leave it there, and that type of thing.
There's some, it depends on your email provider and how they process email. I don't know if you have any comments on this, Bill, but my experience has been with my email provider, if I move things to junk, it will in the future watch for that and move it into junk email.
So how long should I leave something in junk?
Oh, I delete it. Once it's trained, I just go ahead and delete it. I wouldn't worry about keeping it. Mine automatically deletes after 3 days or something like that, but that should work.
I've been using the Apple Mail,
That's what
and
I
I get some Dayton Daily News, things comes through, and it always says it's junk. I go to the junk folder and I click on them, I say this is not junk. It brings it back to the inbox, but then the next day it's still back in junk. It doesn't seem to recognize that as not junk.
Yep.
Or is it trying to spell you something?
Well, if I say it's not junk, I think I'd like to see it. But also the new operating system or whatever is saying something about none of the images come through on email unless I go back and click on accept the images.
I will tell you what I think, and I'd love to get Bill's thoughts on this one too. I really think that's dependent, in my case, I think it's dependent on who your email routes through. Like, are you through Google? Who does your email?
AT&T and AOL and Google.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so we've got Google, we've got Apollo Global.
Google's pretty good at
And
that.
we've got,
Yeah.
what was the other one, AT&T?
AT&T.
Yeah.
AT&T
That's where the,
Have they severed your relationship with Yahoo yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so, pretty sure.
Because they used to rely on the junk mail filter that Yahoo provided.
Right.
But when, anyway, it doesn't matter who, why, it's like banks in the 80s where they changed names every week. The thing to remember is when you're telling your Apple Mail program what to do, it is not telling your email provider what to do. So it may not be your Apple Mail client that's labeling it as junk, but rather your email service.
Which what happens a lot.
So you have to, I know this is not what you want to do, but you fire up a web browser, log into your email from that provider, and on those settings where you're talking to their email server, you say, this is not junk. And then it should be okay.
And some of them are better than others, but you know, some that's where you have to go a lot of times. I have to log into my email provider to get the best training for the junk piece. It sometimes seems to respond when I do it inside Apple Mail, but that may just be luck. But it's really the challenge. And we didn't cover that real deep today. I think there needs to be a whole separate discussion about spam and email spam, about email spam particularly. Because there's a lot of tools for managing email spam. But the thing is, every mail provider does it a little different. Google's really good with their spam. They're really good usually. But that's because they just put it all together and don't, you know, but anyway. Other questions?
Yeah, Rick. Hi, this is Harris part-time. Regular phone, you know, Spectrum, there's a Spectrum lady that calls me every day. And she goes through a little patient and she says, punch 1 if you want to talk to cell phone, punch 9 if you want to delete us, you want to be deleted from the phone list. Well, I punched 9. I punched 9 about 100 times now. Is there anything that can be done about that?
I would call them. I would report it, but I would call them. That's just ridiculous. But I don't know if anybody else has that idea. But if it was me, I would call them and complain. I'm not sure that's really Spectrum, but
Right, that's not really Spectrum.
it can't be really
Yeah,
Spectrum.
I'm
They
pretty
wanna
sure
know.
it's from Spectrum. I used to be a customer. I quit them.
Right.
Yep. But I would still call Spectrum itself and tell them that. But then I'd file a complaint with the FTC.
Oh, okay. You said you're going to send this package to everybody? Is that what you're going to do?
It'll be in the email that comes out after the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
In spam emails, you know, you delete some, then you get the same one 1 hour later, and then every hour. I was looking at this, trying to delete them in a more efficient way, and then I realized all the emails are arranged by, you know, the newest first and then the older one later.
Yep.
Is there any way you can arrange it such by the sender name?
Yeah. You just click the title, the button. You got the bars across the top, the title bars for each column. You just click the button that's got the sender, and it'll put them in alphabetical order.
You will do that?
Depends on the mail
Now,
provider.
but I'm going to tell you, but I just let it delete them. Mine is set up every couple of days. It just deletes them. I don't even go in there. I never even go in and look at it. I just leave it alone. Unless I need to go in and check to see if there's something there that I don't want to be there. I don't spend a lot of time trying to search through that list. If it's junk, if it's spam, I let it get deleted. I mean, it may be different. Maybe you're worried about something getting in there that you don't want in there. But for me, I just let it get deleted. Mine's set up to delete every 2 days or something like that. I just let it delete it. Other questions? That's just how I handle it. Other questions? That's good. All right. I really appreciate you listening to my little thing here today. I get annoyed by these things, and I'm sure you do too. So when you get the packet, look through it. If there's some things you don't understand, drop me an email, call me, text me, whatever. If I don't respond right away, you may win in the junk. And I won't be here next month, so have a nice summer. And next month we'll be presenting, so enjoy.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Rick.
everybody.